Hi, Dr. Karan, and I'm here to interview for some questions about the international students in Australia, and I want to ask you from a teacher or lecturer's
Yes.
perspective that there are many international students in our school, and what do you think of that phenomenon? In recent years, the international students numbers of it just go up. And what do you think of it? Do you think it's challenging for your teaching?
That's an interesting question. There's lots of discussion in academic communities about how to best serve the students and how to best give them the education that they've paid a lot of money for. What I think is challenging is not the majority. The majority of students are the same wherever they come from. They want to get a degree, and many of them also want to learn while they're doing the degree. Some of them just want the piece of paper. Some of them are hard workers, some of them are not. There is probably a stereotype that Chinese students, because the majority, something like 90% of people in our master's course are Chinese students.
Yes.
There's a kind of stereotype in Australia as, they all work really, really hard, which is kind of a racist thing, saying, they work so hard that they'll do better than white Australians. That's a racist sort of thing to say, I think. And I always say, no, they don't necessarily. Some of them do work really hard. Some of them don't work very hard at all. Some of them have a good time. What I think is international students are the same in many ways. Where it's challenging is because universities have been letting in more and more students, is that you do have that bottom probably 10% of students with language problems who I feel very, very sorry for, who shouldn't be doing the course. They struggle also with depression, because
They cannot understand.
Yeah, they can't understand anyone, they can't understand the lectures. They've no doubt been through the Monash College bridging course, but the problem with that is if they get through that, they don't then have to sit the English exam again. It's if they pass that. So I think this is a problem, and I think it's wrong to let students in when it makes them so unhappy. The other thing that I think is a problem is the agents overseas. So agents who facilitate students' applications, they sometimes don't tell students exactly the truth, and they're in it for the money. They're not in it because they want to be kind and provide good opportunities for education, the majority of them. So I had a student the other day who said that her agent told her she would be doing a marketing degree, and she's ended up in this media studies degree, and she was very shocked when she went to her first lecture to find it wasn't the degree that she had been sold at all. But now, of course, it's too late. She could move, but that sort of thing. So I think there are a lot of forces to think about, and definitely there are problems that anyone faces when they're far away from their homeland. Excuse me. I've lived overseas myself as a young person, so I know that it can be difficult living in another culture. What I think a major problem is that we need to address is how to make students more present in Australia. So as a defence mechanism, a lot of international students keep with their own language group. For example, they speak Chinese all the time, except maybe for part of the time when they have to say something in class. And it's really good to have friends that are from your homeland. I know that myself from living in a non-English speaking country. I enjoyed my English friends, but it's also important to immerse yourself, in the country you're in. So one of my hobbies, or one of my desires, is to get students interested in being in Australia, look at Australian media, try to watch Australian TV programs and movies, and then your English improves out of sight, because that's the best way to learn English, is to immerse yourself in it. It's a challenge. I wish that international students would be able to make friends with local students. I know that's a challenge, and mostly it's the fault of the local students, but not all the fault. But they can be difficult. Again, language problems, but that's what I wish, that there would be more communication, because you're here overseas because you want an overseas experience. So
Yes.
I know some international students have complained. Some Chinese students complain there are too many Chinese
Yes.
here. Then, they say, may as well have stayed at home. We did a survey a couple of years ago, and that was a complaint that a lot made. And we are trying to get more local students. So that would be a good thing for the future. So that's a problem also, is what we call monoculturalism. So, which is, mostly Chinese students in a class. So say if you're the only Indian student, or the only Australian-born or Australian citizen student, or you can feel quite isolated as well. So, and so I think that also the challenges are students coming from different systems of education. We have some European students, from France or Germany and so on. In France, they have a completely different way of doing academic work, and students find it a struggle when they come here. French students, also American students, we've had quite a few American students, they have a different way, from what I can see, of writing essays, and also Indian students have been brought up in a completely different style of education. So that can be challenging as well, but as you get experienced, you can kind of keep an eye out for students and where they might be having problems. And so it's really important to have face-to-face consultations available. Unfortunately, the university is making these less and less. Our sessional staff, which are our casual tutors, which make up the majority of staff at Monash, used to be paid for consultations, and that stopped about 2 years ago. So to me, that was a bad thing, particularly for international students who sometimes find it intimidating to speak up in class. I understand that, if you ask if there's any questions, no one will say anything because no one wants to, but then people will come to you personally. So I think it's that we have to make time for that, and we have to make personal consultation time a priority. Unfortunately, the university doesn't see it that way.
Okay.
So that's a challenge to I'd love to bring back consultation time for all academic staff.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So you get something out of that.